Elizabethan poetry uses double entendre throughout. And Joyce, in his researches and in his work as a student, and also in his reading in various libraries, realized this is what was going on. Shakespeare's sonnets are filled full of these kinds of double meanings, as indeed are the examples of Nash and of Dolan, the great Elizabethan songwriter, a songwriter who Joyce said was actually born in Dublin and therefore claimed Irish extraction for a famous English songwriter. But the double meanings are things which we must come to terms with always whenever we're reading James Joyce. He is, of course, a writer who finds everything on the pun, and everything is worked around the pun. That pun may have obscene implications, or indeed the pun just may be something which enables him continuously to find new meanings and new ways of working with English words. His last great novel, Finnegan's Wake, is just founded on the notion of the pun. Practically every word in it is a compound of lots of different words from lots of different languages, all of the meanings working off in different ways. So chamber music is, on the one way, a young student having some fun with a lyric tradition, which may not mean what it appeared to mean on the surface, but on the other way, Joyce is working through and trying to discover his own subject matter, which is worked out at the level of language and of literary form. At the level of language and literary form, what Joyce is doing is exploring ways into meaning in the story or the narrative that he's telling, but also ways into meaning to do with the shapes and the forms of the poems which he's using and the histories of that poems itself. Chamber music, like many other of Joyce's works, is a work about the history of the English language itself, of looking back into language and literature and looking at its various forms and looking at the meaning of its different words. But it's also about the ability of that language to represent experience, the ability of that language to work as a communicative medium. And of course, frequently that communicative medium is something which is hiding what it's talking about, and quite frequently it's something which is being quite explicit about what it's talking about. Thus, the chamber music pun and the pun in the title itself is something which works its way through the whole sequence and works its way through into the human body itself and a sense of a human bodily experience and language. This is something we think about towards the end of Joyce's Ulysses, particularly in Molly Bloom's great soliloquy at the end of Ulysses, but also into the unconscious itself as that's worked through in Finnegan's Wake. So all of this great thematic material, which we now know has worked through the subsequent, nearly 40 years of Joyce's literary career, are all gradually being worked through in this early sequence, which Joyce had begun writing in 1901.